Hey yo, I wanted to give you guys my opinion on this fight because this is a significant fight. This is a good fight in my opinion. Alexander USYK versus BRIEDIS. Now this is a unification fight. Alexander USYK is the WBO Cruiserweight Champion of the world, and of course BRIEDIS is the WBC Cruiserweight Champion of the world. So the winner of this fight will be the unified WBO WBC Champion of the world. In my original channel, I made a video saying that this was the fight I was looking forward to the most. Months ago, I made a video saying this because I think that Alexander USYK and BRIEDIS are the best guys at cruiserweight at the moment. And I said this, like I said, months ago, way before BRIEDIS fought, way before, BRIEDIS fought Marco Huck and what's his name? Mike Perez, and way before USYK fought, Michael Hunter and Marco Huck. And the reason I said that was because I think both of these guys are the best guys in the division. I've always been big on USYK. I think he's very talented. He impresses me a lot. I think he's like the Energizer Bunny. He's one of those guys that he kind of outworks his opponents a lot. He uses his footwork pretty well, and he's not unhittable. He does get hit, but the thing is, he's like the Energizer Bunny. He's one of those guys that he tries to outwork his opponents, and it's hard for his opponent to keep up with him. I think that's what it is. I mean, even against Michael Hunter, if you saw him against Michael Hunter, that was a kind of like. At first, USYK was kind of struggling, but at the end of the day, the reason Michael Hunter lost that fight, in my opinion, was because USYK was outworking him. A lot of times USYK would just exchange with him, and he was outworking him, and that was basically the difference between Michael Hunter. Was Michael Hunter couldn't compete with the amount of punches that USYK was landing. The kind of same thing happened with when USYK fought that, Tabisco Machuno guy. That Machuno guy was really a counterpuncher, and he was trying to counterpunch USYK, but USYK was again outworking him with letting his hands go, and he would move in and out. When it comes to someone like BRIEDIS, I think BRIEDIS is kind of like a boxer, but he's a puncher himself. BRIEDIS kind of fights a counterpuncher slash move-in type of fight. Like when you see him, he moves around the ring and he's dangerous when it comes to. I think BRIEDIS is one of those guys that you have to cut the ring off on him and chase him. But I think you have to be careful because and the reason I think you have to cut the ring off on him and chase him like that and go to his body is because, like I said, he's a counterpuncher type of mover who prefers his opponents coming to him, and as he's moving and trying to outbox his opponent, he'll counter his opponent. And you have to be careful because he's a puncher himself, I think, because I've seen him knock out a few guys. So I think if you march forward against him, I think you have to do that if you're not as good of a boxer than he is. But I think you have to be careful. You have to have a hard guard up and be careful and not just like walk into a counter and get yourself knocked out. I think this is an interesting fight because I want to see how USYK approaches this fight, because let's say BRIEDIS fights the way he normally fights, like he tries to outbox USYK. Oh, by the way, this fight's happening in Latvia. It's happening in the backyard of BRIEDIS. I don't think that will trouble someone like USYK, because USYK is a guy he's always fought in other people's backyards. I mean, he fought in Germany against Marco Huck, and Marco Huck is huge in Germany, and he dominated Marco Huck in Germany. I believe he fought Golaski. I'm sorry if I butchered that Polish guy's name, but he fought him in Poland, I believe. And he beat him in Poland, and he's fought in the United States several times. So I don't think USYK cares where he fights. I don't think it's one of those things, because sometimes fighters, they when they fight in other people's backyard, it gets to them. But kind of like Errol Spence Jr., fighters, a lot of fighters sometimes have a really good mental strength, and it doesn't affect them. And I think USYK is one of those type of guys. He could fight you anywhere, and he'll still be able to perform at his best, at his highest level. So I don't think I have to worry about that. But I want to see how what I'm interested in this fight is I want to see how it plays out. I want to see how, because let's say, like I said, MAIRIS BRIEDIS fights the counterpuncher game. How does USYK approach that fight? Does he become aggressive? Because also USYK is a guy that also at times kind of fights like MAIRIS BRIEDIS too. He also could play the counterpuncher. But how does USYK approach that type of style and against MAIRIS BRIEDIS? Does he come forward aggressively? Because I think he would have to come forward aggressively if MAIRIS BRIEDIS is playing that counterpuncher role. Both of these guys seem to have good chins. At least I think. I mean, I don't recall none of them getting knocked down. I don't think MAIRIS BRIEDIS has ever been knocked down. I don't recall USYK ever being knocked down. I mean, for crying out loud, USYK, in the amateurs or in the Olympics, he fought Joe Joyce, and Joe Joyce is a heavyweight, and Joe Joyce was landing on USYK. And Joe Joyce is that big ass 6'4" heavyweight who just who schooled Ian Lewis, and so I mean he was landing on USYK, and Joe Joyce is a heavyweight, right? He's much bigger than USYK, so I think USYK has a good chin. I'm probably leaning towards, this is not a prediction video, this is just my thoughts on the fight. I'm probably leaning towards USYK just because I think he has a more of a work engine. Again, USYK is like one of those guys that he outworks his opponents, and a lot of times his opponents can't keep up. And kind of like his countryman Vasily Lomachenko. Vasily Lomachenko, he kind of outworks his opponents, and his opponents can't handle it. So that's kind of the way I think USYK is as well. But again, it's interesting because Michael Hunter was giving USYK some trouble. So I do think that you can give him trouble if you try to outbox him. That's why I'm interested in this fight, because I think MAIRIS BRIEDIS might give him some trouble with his movement. And what I like about this fight is the winner of this fight, I guess, not only will be the unified champion, right? The unified WBC, WBO cruiserweight champion of the world, but then they'll fight the winner of Marek Gassiev and I forgot that Cuban guy's name. I think is the guy who just brutally knocked out that Russian dude. You guys know who I'm talking about. I think his name is Jonas, something like that. I forgot his last name, but that's a good fight too, by the way. Marek Gassiev versus that Cuban. Oh man, because both of those guys are punchers, and both of those guys are come forward aggressive guys. Somebody's getting knocked out in that fight. I'm telling you right now, someone's getting knocked out. But yeah, then I would want to. Then of course I would imagine the finale of the World Series would be the winner of Marek Gassiev versus the Cuban guy. They will then fight the winner of this fight, right? Of MAIRIS BRIEDIS versus Alexander USYK, and then the winner of that would then be the WBO, WBC, and IBF cruiserweight champions of the world, right? They'll have 3 out of the 4 belts. So yeah, the winner of this whole tournament will be the man at cruiserweight. I have been saying since day one, I do think that Alexander USYK will be that guy. I think he could beat MAIRIS BRIEDIS, and I also think he beats or he could be. I don't know. I mean, the Cuban guy, I think that's a dangerous fight because he's a puncher, and if he lands. But I think he could definitely beat Marek Gassiev. I think Marek Gassiev is very limited. I think he can outbox MAIRIS Gassiev 100%. But yeah, this is an interesting fight. What do you guys think of this fight? I mean, do you guys think like me? You think it's a good fight? And yeah, I'm out.